Hey everyone, Daniel and Chris here from IGN, and you're watching the superhero show. Now it is the festive period and it's the final superhero show of 2014, so we're going to take seems right moment to take a look ahead at next year, 2015.
Well, if last week we were looking back, this week we are looking forward into the future.
Screw the past.
So Days of Future Past.
So that's a film that came out
and doesn't really work.
So 3 big superhero films next year. Just the 3,
which is the last time that'll happen for quite a long time, I think.
Yeah,
we had 4 in 2014, only 3 in 2015, and then from there on in we're getting 6, 7, 8. I think down the line, it's
just like buses.
Yeah,
you wait ages for Blade to come along. I don't know where this metaphor is going. So, first one, April for us, May in America is the biggie.
Yeah,
coming out of the gates first, it's Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Yes.
So, what more can we say about Age? Is it just going to be the biggest film? Is it going to wipe the floor with everything else? Do you think? It's got everything going for it, pretty much.
I feel like it's going to be the biggest superhero film of next year. I think we can pretty much.
I don't think we're putting our neck on the line saying that.
99% sure of that. A chance of being the biggest film of next year. It's got stiff competition. Yeah. You've got a Star Wars, you've got a Bond, and you've got a Jurassic Park. 4 potential billion-dollar movies. But it's got a chance of making the most money out of all 4 of them. Will it be any good? Like, I think we're pulling for it being the Empire Strikes Back of like this particular Marvel universe.
I think every movie that they do now has much more riding on it than just a self-contained movie. It's got to lay the groundwork for everything else that's going to come. We know there's going to be an Avengers 3, Part 1 and 2, Infinity War, right at the back end of the Marvel slate, and a lot of stuff's going to happen between this one and that one to lay the groundwork. But this also sowed the seeds for Ant-Man, but mainly, I think, Civil War. So I think the events of this movie are going to have big ramifications. And I think it's the occasion you're going to get, people are going to go see it 3 or 4 times. It's the platform is set for them to do some really big stuff, whether that's killer character or really, they're already like in Captain America Winter Soldier. They show that they're unafraid of making big changes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and to like mine the drama from those moments.
But will it go to the dark places we want it to go? The trailer's kind of suggested and hinted at that. But with these other films ahead that have probably got to get darker than this one, when you're talking about something like Civil War, will it go there, or will it just kind of, I don't know, float along the surface a little bit and not quite?
What do you mean by dark? Do you mean actually having the guts to kill off a character? Or?
Well, we talk about every sequel trying to be like the Empire Strikes Back of any one film series, and I think Iron Man 3 was a bit like that. I think for the Iron Man universe, and obviously, The Dark Knight was that much darker than Batman Begins. Yeah. Will this go dark, or will it? Because The Avengers was a very light and frothy film.
I think it will, because you said it went darker in the Iron Man universe. Obviously, that is the Marvel universe, and I think this is continuing on that. As much as anything, this seems like it's Iron Man 4. It's the culmination of Tony Stark's storyline more than anything. The trailer is really Tony Stark heavy. There's a line in the film from in that trailer from Robert Downey Jr. This is the end of the course that I set us on, or the path that I set us on.
Yeah,
it's the culmination of his storyline, I think, and. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of destruction, and I think it'll signal some dark times ahead. I think the trailer really sets the tone for the movie, and I think that's intentional.
I don't want to go overboard though, because the one thing I will kind of say is, for this to work, it feels like the villain has to work, and we have no idea at this point if Ultron will work as a villain, if the look of him. You got a feeling that the voice will work, because with James Spader fans, he's always good when he plays a villain, but. For the film to work, I think the villain needs to work. So that's the one thing where I'll hold back kind of, that's what I'm waiting to see.
Yeah, and I think I wonder how ambiguous they'll make it. Because obviously for a big Hollywood movie, you need that villain. But I think what's really interesting with the Marvel movies of late, if you look at Guardians, that had a definite villain in Ronan. But that wasn't too, he's a weak villain when we take the entire year as a whole. But that's because that movie was more about the heroes. What I think Marvel has done really well is kind of move away from the template of hero hits villain, and that's what they did with Hydra is more diffuse and subtle and nefarious. And I think what they might do in Age of Ultron, yes, Ultron is the focus or the locus of all the antagonism in the movie, But the actual real villain is, it's Tony Stark's actions, and that what will probably lay the groundwork for Civil War.
Sure.
It's the consequences of what he did, that there are these superhuman people with extraordinary abilities that have made the world safer, but also much more dangerous.
Yeah.
So I think, hopefully, Joss Whedon can handle that. Yeah, he'll still have the villain for some really iconic set pieces, but maybe the villain is more ambiguous.
Yeah. Well, we'll wait and see, won't we?
We've been talking about Ant-Man for quite some time.
Like I said, I've been talking about it for about 8 years, because I first got told about it by the old director on the set of Hot Fuzz, which was a long time ago. He said he was working on that. So that's been in pre-production for half my lifetime, it feels like.
So when Edgar Wright walked off, relatively, he worked on that project for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So did Joe Cornish.
Yeah.
They had a script. But I thought there's some really interesting comments recently that came from Evangeline Lilly when she was doing junkets for Hobbit and 5 Armies. She was talking about how, she was hesitant when she heard Edgar Wright had left, and she was like, well, what does this mean? But she got kind of more immersed in the project and learnt more. It really wasn't a case of they wanted to curtail Edgar Wright's creativity for the sake of doing it. It's literally what we talked about on the show in previous weeks. These directors who sign up for Marvel movies have to respect and get on board with the fact that they fall within a much bigger universe. And there's certain things that you need to do and set up, and there's a certain style that you maybe have to conform to.
And they decided that Peyton Reed
is the
guy to do it. I mean, Kevin Feige said he made a great pitch, Peyton Reed, that sort of took it to the next level that they were looking for. So, I mean, I like the cast. Paul Rudd's great, and I'm really interested to see him as a superhero.
And I think
Michael Douglas is a brilliant actor.
I think having the Hank Pym stuff's quite interesting, especially when we're going to get Agent Carter.
Yeah.
So you're going to start seeing, and also when we analyse the trailer for Age of Ultron, there seems to be a flashback sequence in there of Captain America in the 1940s. So it almost feels like they're filling in a bit of like the 1940s, 1950s Marvel Cinematic Universe, just to flesh it out a little bit and give it a bit more backstory. And I think Hank Pym's character will come into play, because obviously Paul Rudd's playing Scott Lang, incarnation of Ant-Man, the Inheritor.
I mean, it's one of the characters I was most interested in, just because it was so different to all the other superheroes that we've seen on screen so far. So I guess my excitement has been tempered a bit by all these these ructions behind the scenes, but and you just want to see some of it at this point. We saw that test material from 2-3 years ago now, but I really want to see him in action and get a sense of the tone of it and the look of it.
Because what we've been excited about recently is, again, Marvel movies straying from superhero template of old. It's good versus evil. So Guardians, sci-fi elements, Winter Soldier, like flirting with paranoid Cold War thrillers. And they've said that, Ant-Man's going to be a heist movie.
Yeah.
Scott Lang is a criminal, he's a thief, and he steals Hank Pym's original suit. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of incorporate that genre and make it work to their advantage. I think. I'm really excited about Ant-Man.
Yeah.
I don't think that, I think Evangeline Lilly's comments kind of comforted me somewhat, because, she said, Edgar Wright wanted to make Edgar Wright's Ant-Man. And Edgar Wright's Ant-Man can't really exist in the shared universe. It was too idiosyncratic. It wasn't, it wouldn't have dovetailed into everything else they're building.
Just seems a shame they couldn't have figured that out a little bit earlier in the process. And I guess we're going to get Marvel's Ant-Man. I'm down for it.
Okay.
And one more.
And strange, we've not seen anything of it yet. We've heard little bits of news. It's the Fantastic Four reboot from Fox. Which is coming out last. So we know casting, we know official synopsis, we know that it's going to be drawing on the ultimate incarnation, a lot of the Fantastic Four, and we know that they're going to, instead of going into space, they're going to go to an alternate dimension. That's how they acquire their powers. We know that Toby Kebbell is playing Victor Domashev, which is a 21st century take on Doctor Doom. He's an online hacker who uses Doom as his code name. What do you think, Chris?
It's hard. We're prejudging two films that we haven't seen anything from as such. But I don't know. With this one, I feel like you've got to trust in Josh Trank. I mean, it's only his second film. But Chronicle, it just suggests that he really knows what he's doing. He really understands the genre. He can take it in directions that maybe you're not expecting, make it very dramatic and make it fun, but also make it deadly serious when he needs to. So I think that's encouraging. I mean, all four of the actors are very, very good young actors, probably younger than we were expecting, but they're all good actors. I mean, I guess Jamie Bell's the most obvious one that sticks out, playing the Thing. Like, it's very unexpected.
A gruff New Yorker.
Yeah.
That you don't think that when you think of Jamie Bell.
But he's been good in pretty much everything I've seen him in.
Well, there's been leaked shots as well of the Grim, the Thing costume, or maybe what the treatment's going to look like. I think that looks great if that's authentic. I think they've said maybe it is.
Yeah.
So it reminds me of Days of Future Past and where we were with that movie at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to get a hook on the tone, especially when you just hear like bits of quote from Toby Kebbell, like, I'm going to be doing Stomach Chef, and you kind of just, it's easy to think the worst and not hope for the best. And I think look how great Days of Future Past turned out.
We did a lot of prejudging of Days of Future Past based on some magazine covers, and this is kind of based on some paparazzi shots that are out of focus and things. So yeah, maybe we'll learn not to prejudge, but that's our job on this show.
Yeah, and I also think you can infer a lot from where the X-Men series is heading about where the Fantastic Four series might be, because Fox will inevitably be planning for a team-up movie after Apocalypse and after maybe Fantastic Four 2. I'm sure that is the distant goal for them, because they see how well that's done for Marvel.
Sure.
So I can imagine that it will be not identical, but it will make sense within the context of the established X-Men universe.
Oh, I think it'll have to share a tone with the X-Men movies, which is no bad thing, because I think they've nailed the tone
time.
Yeah, and I think there's no doubt that with Mark Miller being brought on board to kind of oversee storylines and things, that I think it will be sooner rather than later that these two will cross over, perhaps even after Apocalypse. I think it will happen. So I'm sure there'll be seeds sort of planted in this movie.
So at the same time, a lot of pressure then on that movie to do well.
A lot of pressure anyway. The two Fantastic Four films that came before. No one loves them. I know a lot of people that quite like them. They were obviously a bit more light-hearted than the superhero films we've seen before. They made a fair bit of money, but Fox need this to work.
Yeah, it's also, I think it's a bit of a shame for the Fantastic Four in general, because arguably they're the most important comic book in the history of Marvel. It was Stan Lee was on the verge of quitting Marvel and doing something else with his life, and he said before he did that, his wife said, write one comic book adhering to the principles that you would want to see in a comic book. And he went away and he created the Fantastic Four with Jack Kirby, and that was the start of everything for Marvel. So for them not to, to have the great movie that they probably deserve is a bit of a shame, because I think there's good aspects of those two existing movies, but they'd never really caught fire. Bad pun, that wasn't intentional. But hopefully they get the movie they deserve, and I think there is an interesting modern take to be done on them. I think they've done it in the comics, but not done it on the big screen yet.
And having finally seen Whiplash, I can't wait to see Miles Teller as Mr. Fantastic.
Cool. So we did this last year, or this year, about ranking the movies, which one we think is going to be most successful. I think it's a much more easy task with 2015, but we're going to agree, Avengers number one at box office. Obs. And then, what do you think about the other two? It's really hard, isn't it?
Who's gonna? Well, one of us is gonna have to stick the neck out. Otherwise, we'll have the same.
I'm gonna go Fantastic Four.
I think I would have gone Fantastic Four, but I'll happily go Ant-Man.
I went Fantastic Four because I thought you'd go Ant-Man.
I'll happily go Ant-Man. Okay. Let's see what happens.
Cool. So that's what we think about the movies of 2015. Any feedback on any of those movies or anything, you can contact us at any time at which catchy email address, Chris?
superheroShow@ign.com.
There you go. So until 2015, for everything on Marvel, DC, and all things superhero, stay right here on IGN.